We're going to do a little bit of work to the wheel wells here. You can see that this driver's side has a lot of damage on it. It's cracked. And both fenders have a lot of holes that are blown out. What happened was the bolt seized in these U-nuts and someone tried taking it off and it just ripped the plastic. Best bet there is to just cut the heads of the bolts off. I was able to save some of the holes in this fender, but both fenders are going to need repair. I'll start by just trying to clean them up some. So much crap on these wheel wells, it's ridiculous. But I'm going to keep pushing forward because I want clean wheel wells in and out. So about 2 hours of scrubbing with mineral spirits and lacquer thinner, I got her to this point. So we cleaned up the extra flashing on this wheel well, probably where the mold's parted, and there's a lot of staples in this one for whatever reason.
Well, there's this flap on here. You got to realize we're upside down right now, so the wheel well comes around, and this is where these clips have to be repaired. And we were wondering what the heck they had put this on for. And I think it would just hold a bunch of sand and grit. We're going to remove it. A lot of people will rip stuff apart, maybe leave a little staple like that. And when they're working with metal and there's a sharp corner, they don't round it. They come back to haunt you later on. If it's your car, always plan for the future, because someday you might be spinning a wheel or something, all of a sudden you catch that staple that you left hanging out. When you cut your hand, you can only be mad at yourself because you should have pulled it out.
We've made a contoured piece here. We'll just rivet that in.
So in order for us to put the clip back on, and then we can start working on the hood, we need to have the inner wheel wells repaired after these have been damaged, where the clip spins around when it's rusted, and we needed to fix this. So he took aluminum strips and then pop riveted it, and you'll see how this easily, it'll go like this. And you'll never see any of this. The wheel well on the fender bolts up to here. And it's nice having inner wheel wells. Guys will run a car without wheel wells and water flies all around. If you go high speeds, the thing starts lifting the car up. It's just nice to be finished off so it doesn't throw stuff all over the inside.
Here's the driver's side wheel well. We're gluing it up as best we can before we put a metal cover plate over that. And luckily all these holes weren't already damaged, and I cut the heads off the bolts to save them. There's a couple damaged ones, but most of them are good.
So we're at a point where the front end is going to be going back together, and we wanted to eliminate all the emblems so you wouldn't even know what kind of car it was, because it's old enough where younger people say, like, what the heck is that? You know, it's such a big monster. And there's places where the emblems have to go back, or you'd have to do a bunch of cutting away and stuff, so it's easier to just put an emblem on it. But if you have a fresh paint job and you put this old emblem that's got pits on it and everything, it really detracts from the look. I mean, everything else is fresh, and then you got this pitted old emblem. Most people would just go buy new emblems and put it on. I've seen guys that had beautiful paint jobs on cars, and then they stick these pitted door handles and bumpers, and because they don't have the money, and they didn't want to paint them. A lot of guys will just sandblast chrome and then they paint them, but you need a little chrome to make colors pop. Otherwise, if everything's too much of one color, sometimes it gets pretty boring. So when you have something like this and they're made out of pot metal, what happens is the decomposition of it just gets underneath that chrome that was on the pot metal and it pops. So it's like a big zit and it pops. So the only way you can do this is like if you're watching TV and it comes to a commercial, your wife might complain that you're making her living room dirty or whatever, but put some newspaper down on the coffee table, and then during the commercial time, you got to have these little jeweler's files that can fit in between all these little holes, and all you got to do is scratch them off.
Cleaning up all the chrome as best we can and other pieces. Try some of this on the grills. Then we're going to go to this and then a clear. Going on clear?
It's different. No, it's white. I'm off by 1/8 of an inch on this, and then I'll just sand it more off to that side, and then I'll center that up when it's on the car. Like I said, this is just the black primer. Later on, he wants it to be red with black stripe, and then when it's all held in place, and in the process of putting stuff together, a lot of times things get nicked and scrapped.
This is after the clear coat. Gives it a nice smooth finish. I might even clear coat the Javelin grills. Kind of like how that turned out. See how it stands up to the elements. We got this crack all glued up. Did it with that Loctite super glue. And it's holding, but we're gonna pop rivet a piece of aluminum sheet metal over the top of that to cover all that mess up and dress it up. I might even sand on this a little bit before I put the metal on it. And my philosophy is whenever you're doing a car like this, when something comes off of it, it gets painted before it goes back on it, if possible or practical. Here's a look at that wheel well mounted back on the fender. And you do see the rivets, but from a standing position outside the car, you're not going to see them. And it doesn't really look that bad. I painted one washer. I'll probably paint the rest of them at a later date. Here's a look at it from the top side. You're not going to really be able to see that aluminum at all. Riveting it this direction, we had to use washers on the back side of our rivets. Otherwise, they were just pulling through the plastic.
So we're at the point where the fenders have been painted inside, outside, bodywork done, the front's been done, bolted up. These gaps are tight and this is even. The hood's going to be worked on next, and then after that's done, then you got to get the gaps straight. That's why we're not all shimmed up everywhere. And then the doors have to go on and be shimmed so that gap in the back of the fender turns out right. But otherwise, he's happy. Looks good. Nice and solid. And once the hood's on, the front end will be done. We'll work our way back. We're going to be putting it together. We're not professionals. Those guys that do it, they even have tape and everything. Their cars are custom painted that you can't just touch up. We're just doing it with primer. We caught an edge, just trying to assemble everything, trying to get one part over and under and together. We scratched it. So that'll be fixed up when we do the car in color. What we got here is the hood, and you can see this occupies a lot of real estate. This hood is probably as wide as most little cars are now. But we caught it a little too late, and this is a hood that he wants to use because it's a 442 hood. Once it's flipped over, you'll see that there's these little louvers. There's a raised hump in there. But we got some rust here, and we're going to have to cut this out, put the leading edge, drill out the spot welds, and just a lot of wire wheeling. Get the bottom done first, just like when we were working on the AMX hood, and flip it over and start sanding the top, look for little dingers and stuff, and remember where they're at, and get that leveled out. And then once the hood's on there, then we can gap everything, and it'll be working our way back. What you got here is like on the 442, you'd have a different color stripe going down the center. They got this chicken wire in here, and it's all, I don't know what all this mess is, but it really makes it look nasty. He's gonna end up cutting that out, getting that screen out of there, and he's gonna have it function where fresh air will actually go into a box around the air cleaner. I'd like to cut it down the side and raise it, come all the way back like a cowl hood, but he doesn't want to do that.